So an interesting thing happened last week. I ended up catching up with two different groups of people. Quite a social week, which was really nice. And the one thing I found in those two groups was that every conversation revolved around the same simple questions. Hey Shelley, what are you doing for work? Hey Shelley, have you bought that house yet you talked about? Hey Shelley, what's going on with you? What are you up to these days? Hey Shelley, are you looking for a job? Are you thinking about going back to finance? Are you thinking about what's next in the future? And I don't think anyone meant any malice by any of that. People are just curious. And I get it. I'm living a life that's quite different to most people. So I understand why that would happen. But one thing I'm realizing is that when you decide to live a life that's different to what other people expect, you end up having to answer some pretty uncomfortable questions. Hey everyone, and welcome back. My name is Shelley, and if you're new around here, this channel is all about simple living, slowing down, and creating a life that feels free and meaningful to you. And those questions last week from those conversations, they felt kind of jarring at the time. Why did all these people need to know everything about my life? Why were they so curious? But the biggest question was, why did I feel so uncomfortable about them? Maybe they were just holding up a mirror, and that's kind of what I came to realize. But what I was doing was taking on their voice as my voice, and I've realized that wasn't the right thing to be doing. I was asking myself, am I behind? Should I be making more decisions? Should I be moving things through faster? Should I return to work? All of those things. It was funny, catching up with these friends was so fun. I loved seeing them. But, there were parts of those conversations where I felt like I'd stepped into a job interview. Those types of conversations, they're not anything new. I've been having a version of them pretty consistently for the last 3 years. And I guess I've had to come to the realization that it's okay. It's okay not to know exactly where I'm going. And people won't necessarily understand the choices that I'm making, and that's okay. People won't understand necessarily why I don't want to sit in an office anymore, why I don't want to be a slave to the corporate world anymore. And it's okay. I think it's easy to look at my life and for people to compare themselves. And I think that's probably part of the reason why this is so jarring. So it's jarring for me, but I think it's also jarring for other people as well. Because I'm here and I'm able to live out some of my passions. I'm able to do some of the volunteer work that I really want to do. And a lot of that is simply because I've chosen a simpler style of living. And versions of these conversations have been really unsettling over the years. I thought I was failing because I never had it all figured out. That version of success that everyone thinks? Have a good job, have a nice car, have the nice clothes, all that kind of stuff. I've lived a version of that. I've had the corporate career. I've done that, but I've also been super burnt out by it. And it's just not a choice that I ever want to make to go back to. And there's nothing wrong with any of that lifestyle. I liked it at one point in my life. I enjoyed those things. I loved going out to restaurants and doing those things when I was younger. But these days, that just doesn't really align with who I want to be and where I want to do. And back in that old life, there was always a gnawing voice at the back of my head. I'd come home from work exhausted, not able to really give anything more. And I used to always ask myself, is this it? Is this what life's going to be? And what was great about those conversations last week? By the end of them, I was actually starting to tell the truth a lot more. I was starting to be honest with both myself and with these people. Instead of detailing, I'm going to be doing XYZ for the next couple of months, I was able to actually be honest about it. Honest with them, but also honest with myself. Honest to be able to say, I don't have it all figured out. I am still figuring this out. I am still looking at alternatives. And, that was one of the best things. Because one thing I'm realizing is that life is always revolving. We never know what's going to come down the pipeline. And I feel like we should be open to new possibilities. Not in a reckless way. We don't need to blow up our life. But I do think that we should be trying to align with what feels good for us. I think somewhere along the line, I started to believe that changing my mind meant that I failing. It meant that I was behind. But maybe, just maybe, how about if me changing my mind is actually me listening to myself? It's actually me paying attention to what I actually want. You know what's really funny? So many people say to me, gee, I really wish I was doing what you're doing. You're so brave, Shelley. Oh, you're so lucky. And you know what's funny about that is I am none of those things. I am just someone who's decided that I've just wanted to have a change. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to live in a way that was aligned with who I am. I started asking myself the questions. What do I want? What makes me happy? And like I say, I don't have all the answers to those questions, but at least by asking them, it's starting to get my mind thinking about some of those answers and what some of that could look like. At the moment, I'm looking after these guys, very cute little dogs. I'm house sitting in a place that isn't my own, but it's a beautiful place. I'm getting to stay here for free, which is cool. I'm looking after these dogs, which I love. And you know what? Simple living isn't about buying a van. It's not about traveling around Australia or blowing your life up completely. It's just about allowing yourself to ask those questions. It's just allowing yourself moments in time to reflect. Is this what I want? Is this what lights me up? What could change? What could be one small thing that I could change to make a difference to how I feel in life? It's just about making decisions that fit the stage of life that you're at. Because that changes. The things that we decided that we wanted when we were 25, they're not the same that we want at this age of life. But maybe the hardest part about simple living, it's not the practicalities. It's not about saving money or spending less. It's not about the uncertainty, although I tell you, there's a lot of that. But I think what it is actually resisting the urge to try and explain yourself constantly. Because people will ask, people will want to know, and you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. You have to be able to say, I don't know, and be okay with that. And I'm human. I still have to resist that urge sometimes to give people the plan, even though I don't have one. To make one up on the spot and say, yes, I've got this great 5-year plan. This is what I'm going to be doing. And I have to really resist that a lot because I don't want to have to come to them again in 6 months' time or 12 months' time when people ask me, hey, how did it go with that thing? And I'm like, oh, that's right, I didn't do it. That doesn't feel right. And so I've been resisting that urge to explain myself. Sometimes that feels in life that's the only acceptable answer to when people ask those questions, that we have to know every single little detail of what's coming up and what's next. But the really honest answer is I'm still figuring it out. And not everyone needs to understand your path. Not everyone will get it. But the people that support you, they might not understand the nitty-gritty of it, but they'll support your decisions and they'll allow you to they will allow you the space and time to figure it out for yourself. So all I can say is if you're having this choice and if you're starting to feel as though life doesn't quite align with where you want it to be, start asking yourself the question, is this it? Is this what I want? Is this going to be what I want forever? Because nothing in life is guaranteed. We can make changes at any point along the way. Thanks so much for watching.